Hi, my name is Alessandro Gangelosi and that's a video tutorial coming from cgcookie.com for Max Cookie. This time we'll see some feature we have in 3ds Max to work with a better workflow and to manage complex scenes when we are working, for example, in a team, but also when we are working on a complex scene with more objects or animated stuffs that must be merged all together. So we'll talk about more in depth about the XRef, and the containers. It's possible that we talked a little bit in the past about the XRef, and we'll see more in depth how to use it and where we can use also the container. So the XRef is the oldest version of a collaborative feature set in 3ds Max. And that's really useful because it gives us the possibility to use objects or scenes external to the master scene we are working on. So you can imagine that a complete scene set is made of different XRef scene or XRef objects. So for example, let's imagine that we have a really simple scenes as this one. It's not important what we have inside there. This can be our master scene, and we like to have some objects we created before inside the scene, and these objects can be modified or changed by another artist or by ourselves, and we like to have inside the master scene all the changes updated automatically without the need to merge every time the mesh or something like that. And that's perfect for a production environment because you know that maybe you are working on a master scene there and the modelers are working on the models and the animators is animating some stuffs, and for example who is working on the shaders, maybe it's working on the shaders over one of the mesh or something like that. And you know, you can work on the master scene, and every time it's working on a piece of the scene, and everything is updated with the latest version without the need to merge and maybe having problem with the stuffs. So for example, in this case, we have a menu there, the references, and you see that we have some voices. Something is not useful at this moment, and I mean the file link manager, because it's for FBX, DVG, and DXF file format. But we'll see maybe in a future tutorial how to use those stuffs. And you see that then we have the inherit container, XRef objects, and XRef scene. Let's start with the XRef objects. This feature gives us the possibility to merge here inside the scene a mesh and objects, and this one can be used inside our scene and we can work with the scene without problems. So for example, let's see if we can merge something from a previous tutorial. Let's see if we have something useful. For example, there, the dragon. Okay, and let's pick just the dragon in this way, and you see that we need all the other stuffs, but we are starting to import just the dragon there. So let's say yes, and you see that we have our model there, and it is saying that we have the dragon, that's the material, and you see, so we have an object XRef, and the XRef is resolved because we have no problem to find the file. The dragon has the 02 default, that is XRef material, and that's okay too. And again, the dragon is the XRef controller for the animation. You see that we can include everything, and you see that we have the automatic update. So everything will be changed, will be automatically inserted there. Let's say that it's okay for us. I'll talk just a little bit about the XRef objects because it's useful, but I prefer to work with the XRef scenes. But you see that that's a possibility to have, for example, a model, and you see that we have the possibility to have it inside there. You see that we can add more objects coming from the scene if we need it. and for example it is animated, so we can choose more stuffs and merge it there. And you see that we have a complete control over all the stuffs. Let's say that's okay, and you see that there we have something, and it's added there because I was selecting this one. So we can go inside the selection, and you see that we have just the dragon there. That's the dragon, and you see that we can't modify it. We have just the XRef objects to say where is the file, so if we have changed file or maybe the path, and we have also the possibility to use a proxy, so we can make a low poly version of the dragon, for example, save it, and then we can use in viewport the proxy version. We have also the possibility, if we save the proxy version, we have the possibility to enable it in viewport and if we need it. And we have also the possibility to set to using rendering, so we can see in viewport and in rendering the proxy version. Okay, you see that we have now the dragon there. You see that we can work with it without problems. We can scale it. We can, for example, you see that I'm trying to manipulate it, but we have a problem because we can't animate this one in this way. So the best way is to animate the dragon, for example, inside the XRef scene, and you can merge the animated version there, and that's the best workflow because you see you have no access to control the animation, and you see that there you have just the XRef controller, and you have no possibility to add controller to the mesh. So the other way is to use the XRef scene. Let's imagine that this one is the environment, for example, and let's say that we have no teapot, but just something more interesting, like having, for example, 250 meters and 250 meters. Okay, and we have a lot of details, so let's say 80, and we have sorry, a noise, and let's start to create something like that. And let's imagine that this one is our environment with the mountain or something like that. And we like to have our fire dragon there, flying whole inside the environment. We can use the references, XRef scene, and you see that the panel is different. We have the possibility to say which is the XRef files, and we can add all the XRef files we need. So we can go there, and we can go inside the tutorial folder, inside the dragon again, pick the dragon, and you see that we have something inside the scene, and that's the entire scene. Let's close, and you see that something is happening. So let's set to shaded, and you see that we have something. We have the XRef scene, and we have the visibility there, and we have everything loaded, and you see that we have it inside the scene. There is something wrong with the merging. We have the mesh is collapsed, but usually it works perfectly, so I think there is something he doesn't like inside our scene, because you see we have the animation, but there is something wrong, and maybe there is something inside the scene that is not so good. So we can try to render, but I think we have problems to rendering with it. So maybe it can also crash. Let's see what happened. You are right. As you see, we have really big problem with this scene. So that's not the best example. So let's see if we can do something else. So XRef scene, and let's remove this one. Let's add a scene coming from some stuff that I done in the past, and let's say there, or maybe okay, there, maybe this one. It is loading. Obviously, if the scene is big, it takes time. And now you see we have also the cameras coming from the scene, and obviously we can do nothing on this mesh. We cannot change materials. You see, we can't pick materials. We can't change anything, but we can add, for example, additional objects. So there's no problem to, let's say, having, for example, a teapot there near the camera. That's not a big problem. So if we go there inside the render, obviously the scene was done to be rendered using array. Sorry. So we say this one, let's make a really fast example using a really low value. And let's say maybe 650 for 350 and render. And you see it's as if you have your scene there. Obviously we have not set other stuffs, so we have, for example, no, let's go there, no exposure control, and we have to say to use the Monterey photographic. Obviously I don't remember the value I used, but maybe we had the indoor night time. Let's see if it works. Okay, you see that it is starting to work. Obviously maybe we have no maps there for the lighting or something like that, but you see we are starting to have the right environment, and we can, for example, go inside our material editor. It is slow because we are using array also for this one, but we can leave it. Okay, and we can go there and select a map. Let's use a default map from 3ds Max. So our programs, Autodesk 3ds Max, and we have maps. And let's say let's pick an HDR image outside. Okay, this one. Okay, it's not a problem. The default value, and we'll use a spherical map. We can put it there as an instance, and let's see. You see that we are doing something inside the master scene. We changed the photographic exposure, we have an environment map, we have a teapot, but the other area of the scene is done using the XRef. It is still wrong because we okay, the problem is really simple. We have the environment there, you see, so that's normal. We can't render using the environment because we have there, it is closing, so we can have the right environment reflection. But you see that we have something done inside the scene. It can be manipulated and animated or whatever else, and the other stuffs come from the master, the XRef scene. And the XRef scene, what we can do is, you see, import the XRef files, and you can merge all the XRef files you want to have. You can convert the selected one, and if you convert the selected one, you are converting the scene to be inside your scene. You have also the possibility to merge. You see that there you can convert on a scene, and then you can merge it. And there we have the possibility to enable. You see that there's no scene. And another useful feature is the merge, so we can merge directly this file inside our scene. And you see that we have the update automatically, so if someone is changing the scene, we can press the update now to have the last version. If you leave for automatic, during the work session, if someone is changing the scene, you can see the changes automatically updated inside your master scene, and that's really useful. Obviously, if you have no automatic update set to on, it's normal that if tomorrow you open again the same scene with the XRef, obviously it will pick the newest version because the artist and the other artists or you have to work on this file. Or if you change to another file, you have to go there and select the other file. So you see, for example, I have to say, don't use this one, use the 02 or maybe the 09 animation. So this time it's changing the file. Now I can go there. You see that we have no more the camera, but now we have the camera animated. So we changed the scene directly inside the XRef scene. And you see then that we have also the possibility to display the scene, or we can say to use a box to display the scene, or we can remove the visibility. So you can decide how you like to see everything, and you can also decide to merge no light, or maybe no cameras, or no shape, no helpers, or no animation. So you can decide what you like to ignore. You see that there we have also the bind option. Let's see how we can use the bind option. You see that we have no such possibility, not so much possibility to do something over the scene because the scene is external. But we can have, for example, let's say we have this dummy, and then back inside reference XRef scene, we can decide to select this one and bind to this one, to the dummy, close. Now you see that we are able to, for example, move it. Let's see what happens if we have, for example, a key. And you see that we can animate also the XRef scene. And obviously, we have also the possibility to scale the XRef scene. And that's a really useful way to have a basic transformation over the XRef scene inside your master scene. A really useful way to work with the XRef scene is to work, for example, on a scene with the environment model, on other scenes with, for example, in this case, the car model with the shaders and the animation, for example. On another scene, you can work at the lighting setup, so every time you can just play with the lighting, and it's a really useful way to have a more modular way to work with a project and complex project inside 3ds Max. As you see, the XRef scene and the XRef objects are really useful, but we have some new features that can be used to work with the external references and external files. And I'm talking about the containers. Let's reset. Okay. The containers are a little bit different because it gives us more feature and in any way more flexibility. Let's see a really simple example of how to prepare a container and how to use the container inside our master scene, and later we start to see some feature that can be useful. Let's imagine to open our car scene there. Let's say there, the animation 1, this one. Let's open. Okay. And continue. Obviously, we have no old texture. Let's scale. Let's zoom there. Let's make a selection. And there, you see that we have the. Now we need to go to create a container. The container is a little bit different. You see that we have to go inside the tools menu. We have to go inside container, and you see that we have a lot of tools there. The first one we can use is the create containers from selection. Okay, so we created the container, and you see that now the container has all the information we need to use. And obviously now I'm not using all the feature and I'm not taking care about what we can do, but I like just to see simple things. Decide the rule and save the container. The rule is something different from the XRef because you see that we can use the XRef. We can change the XRef, but we can open the XRef scene and we can do what we like and then resave. But in a more complex collaborative workflow, maybe we need to give different access to different people. So you see that there we have the rules. When inherited, hello. So when we will import the container inside the master scene, what we can do with it? You see that the basic access value is the no access closed. So it means that the container is closed and you can do nothing. You can do nothing on the container. So you have it inside the scene as an XRef scene, but you can do nothing. You cannot select the mesh. You can't change materials. You cannot do anything over the stuffs that are inside the container. You see that, for example, you have the only edit in place. So a different way to edit the container, and we'll see later this option how it can be used. You see that, for example, we have only had new objects, so you can just pick some objects from the other scene and put it inside the container. And then we have the full unlocked option, that's anything unlocked. So we can do everything we like. If you see there inside the let's go the container, and you see that inside the container now we have all the meshes, all the lights, all the cameras, everything. So now we have the container and then inside all the stuffs we need. Okay, let's say that this one is the container and we like, for example, to save it. So save, let's say in the same folder there, test container. It is saving. Okay, and we save this scene container. Okay, set. Now we have an open container, so we are closing the scene and it is saying you have a container open, you see, or maybe you are editing something. So there is a temp file, a temp version of the container inside the computer. So if you close this one, you can overwrite, and that's just to protect on the possibility that some artists are working on the same container and someone is changing something, but it's not our problem. If you like to remove this problem, you can do not show this message again, or you can close the container before you close the scene. Let's say okay, let's reset. Okay, now we have a new scene there, and let's say that we have a really stupid scene with stupid mesh, and then we like to have a container there. You see that there we have some voices, the possibility to create a container, add the selected stuffs to a container, and we have the possibility to inherit a container. So let's say inherit a container, but you have the same option there inside container, inherit container. And you see that we have the possibility to open a scene, and this scene is in a different format. You see it's a 3ds Max container definition, so it's a .maxc, and we can go inside the folder where we saved sorry, and that's the scene test container open. Okay, and we have it now. So we can go there, camera, and you see that we have all the stuffs coming from the scene, let's say shaded, and that's the scene we prepared before. It's saved. You see we have the animation, but we have also our teapot there. So for example, I can select our teapot, let's zoom it, and we have the teapot inside the car. We can put it there, we can scale it because that's our mesh, so we can do what we like to do. But you see that there, for example, if I select this one, body, I see the mesh. So it's a different way to work. Let's go in a perspective. You see that we have a complete access to the scene. So I can imagine to do something really strange. I can do there, for example, a blend. So I am destroying this car, but it's not a problem. So we can work on the scene, and there's no problem because we are the full access to the container. And you see that there we can go, for example, on a material. We can pick a shader, and you see that we can play with the shader. So we can render the scene, we can select the stuffs, we can remove the stuffs, we can animate the stuffs. It's not a problem. We have a complete access to everything. So, for example, auto key, and I like to move this part of the car. And you see that we have the animation. So it's something different from the XRef. We have an external reference to a scene. We can have all the stuffs we need inside our scene, and we have complete access to the stuffs. We can animate, manipulate, change topology, remodel something, load, change lighting, change animation, change the cameras. We have complete access to everything we need inside the scene. And so you see that it's a more flexible way. But obviously, if we have the container completely protected until the manipulation of the other artist, we cannot do these things because we'll have the same situation as the XRef scene. So we have access to the properties and the different value or single mesh or whatever else. So you have to remember these main differences between the container and the other stuffs. You see that, for example, now we have a container, but we have, for example, select this tippet, and we have the possibility to have a container there, and we can decide to add this tippet to the container, and that's another possibility we have. So people have complete control, and you see that there we have again the same option as the container we had before. So if you do something there and you change something and you close, obviously you changed the container because you are changing this definition file. So you have to pay attention and you have to use carefully the containers because everything can be changed. And when you exit from the scene inside the container will be changed. So if tomorrow you open the scene, or maybe another artist will open the master scene, or another scene where you have the same container, the stuffs will be overwritten. So you have no more the old version of the scene. So please pay attention to the use of the container and the access properties you have. So if you can use it or you cannot use it, or you can manipulate or not manipulate. So that's a brief introduction to the main differences between the XRef and the containers. Now we have to see some more options more in depth to understand how we can use it and how we can have a better workflow with it. So let's continue talking about some feature inside the container. So let's talk a little bit more about the containers, and you see that we have the containers there on the toolbar, and obviously you have the possibility to go inside the usual menu inside the tools to create the containers and to have all the features you have there. But you have also the possibility to have the toolbar there, and it is really simple because you have just to go all the toolbar there or there, for example, and you see that we have all the toolbars there, and we have also the containers, so you can activate or remove the containers toolbar, and that's really useful to have it also there. The toolbars contains there all the feature we have inside the tools container menu, and you see that it's really simple. We have the inherit containers, and that's the possibility to inherit all the container properties and all the information you have inside the container file. Then you see that we have the create container from selection, and we use this one for to create the main container scene. And you can select all the stuffs you like to have inside the container, press override, and you have the main menu to there, all the tools to control the container properties. Then you see that we have the add selected to container. So let's imagine that we selected the car and we created a container. Then you can select this one and then press add to container. Obviously now we have no container inside the scene, but if you have the container just created before, as in the previous test, we have the container, and automatically this one will be added to the container. So we can imagine that, for example, at the end of the project we have, for example, some new cameras or some new lighting, or maybe the ground and the environment or something we add to the scene, and we like to add to the container that we created before, and you have just to use the add selected to container. Then you have also the remove selected from container. So let's imagine that someone is working on a container scene and is changing something or has to remove something from the scene. Let's imagine, for example, that you don't need more one camera or something else. You can press select the stuffs you would like to remove that must be part of a container, and then you can press remove selected from container. So you have no more instance of the selected objects inside the container. Then you see that we have the load container and unload container. So we can load all the container inside, or we can remove the container from the memory there. We have the possibility to open a container. We have the possibility to close the container. And you know that we have this possibility there. Let's go to reset maybe the scene there. And we should have. Now I search for the container and I open the container again. Okay, that's the scene made using the container. You see that now we have all the other options. We have the load container, unload container, and open container. So we have the possibility to open the container and work inside. We have the possibility to save the container or close the container, and that's if we are changing something there inside the scene that we like that will be changed inside the container too. We have the update container. So if we are changing something there, we press over update container, and if someone is changing something over a container, automatically it will be updated inside our scene. We have the reload container, and that's the other way to reload completely the old container inside the scene. And then you see that we have all the content inside the the container to make it unique, and we have also the merge container source. The really interesting stuff is, for example, this one is the merge container, and it's similar to the merge XRef scene. So we'll be able to pick the entire scene inside the container and merge inside our scene. So automatically it will be part of our scene, and that's a destructive operation because from the time you'll work on the merge container, you'll be able to work on the container scene, but it will be not more the container scene because you are working on your scene with the merged container inside. So everything you'll change inside the container will be not changing to the container because this time you are working on your scene. Other stuff that can be useful, you see that we have the edit container and override object properties and override all logs, and that's to work on all the information we have there about, for example, the rule and the properties of the mesh. Let's see something more that can be useful to know about the container. And there we have again some stuffs we have also there, and some stuffs that are not inside the toolbar. You see that we have the possibility to inherit the container, so reference the content to the container that is on the HD. We have the possibility to delete from the scene the content from the container, doing the unload, or to close. So all the stuffs that we changed on the container will be saved and will be not more able to work on the container. We have the auto update, so automatically when we close the container, it will be updated automatically. You see that we have also there the possibility to update the container. So if someone is working on the container and is changing something about, for example, the lights or maybe the shaders or something else, we can update it, and we have also there the possibility to know if it is updated or not. So we have a checker there. And other things we have there, we have again some option we have there, and you see that we have the make all content unique. So all the container we have inside this container will be merged, and it will become a single container inside our scene, and all the stuffs will be merged inside this container. So everything will be inherit inside and will become just a container. We have there, you see the add and remove. So we have the possibility to check what we like to add or remove from the container. We have the possibility to save the container or to reload the container. Again, we have the possibility to change the rules because we have complete access to the container. So we talked before about the rules there of how to control the rules to access to the container. Then we have there other operation. You see lock all modifiers. So we'll be able to have, for example, complete access to everything. So you see anything is unlocked, but for example we can lock all modifiers. So we'll be no more able, if someone will open this container and we lose it inside a scene, it will be he will be not able to work changing the modifiers applied to all the objects. You see that there we have the all lock all materials. So let's imagine another things. We are working on the scene. We prepared the shaders for the car, for example, and we have the modeler that can change the shape of the car doing revision, but we don't want that he will be able to access to the material and change it. So we can go there, unlock the material, so he will be able to change the modifiers, change the lighting, for example, change the models, but he will be not able to work on the shaders. Then we have lock all transforms. So you will be able to access to the models, the materials, and everything, but we are not able to change the position, the scaling, and the rotation of the mesh and the objects. So in this way, we are sure that no one will be able to change the scene in terms of position and all the other transformation. Then we see another lock, and that's the lock all objects. So in this way, you are locking all the objects, but for example, you are not locking the material. So you can do nothing over the objects, but you can do changes to the material. Then we have the edit, and you see that there we can change and editing all the stuffs we have inside the container. Let's go to select the container again. Okay, this one. Perfect. And that's the content we are using, and that's the container we saved before, and you see. And we have the possibility to merge the container inside our scene, but all the container that will be, for example, inside the container we are merging will be not merged. So you must work with a make unique before, the option we saw before, make all content unique, and then you can merge source definition to have all the container nested inside the container, the main container merged inside your scene. There you have the possibility to work with a proxy or not. So the container can be a really heavy scene, and you can say to use no proxy, so you will see the container scene, or you can work with a max definition scene, and that's another container scene with a lower quality of mesh, and it will be useful to have the container. So it will be useful to have, for example, a lower resolution or a medium resolution version of the container to be faster when the people are using the main container. And then we have the information you can display about the container, and usually we have just an icon, but you can, for example, expose the name and the status to know. Let's see if we can see it there. Let's say undo, isolate. Let's see if we see. Okay, that's in the best way. You see that we have just the point, an icon. We have the possibility to display the name inside the viewport. We have the possibility to display the status, so you see that's unsaved, or to expand the bounding box, and that's just when we have, you see, the icon can be changed, and that's the bounding box that can be expanded to contain the entire scene and not just the icon. So it's obviously a really simple way to play with the container inside the viewport. So that's just something to play with the display. So that's these are the main feature for the container, and you see that the container is the maybe a more complex and more deep way to work with external references. Maybe better than the XRef, because the XRef is the oldest version of the external references inside 3ds Max, and the container is a newer set of feature, and it is the team is working on the container to make it better and better. Since the beginning they developed this feature. So maybe it is a better way to work with external references using the container, but obviously you can decide based on your needs and the production needs, and also the simplest way to achieve the results you need, to choose between the XRef objects, the XRef scene, or the container. In some projects I prefer to have the XRef scene because it's really fast. You have just to choose those files, you can decide if it's visible or not, and that's all. In other cases it's better to have a container because you can have access to the container, or for example it's a more flexible way to work on a team. So you have to decide, make some testings, and see if one feature is better than the other, or which is the feature that fits in the best way to your needs and your production. So for the moment that's all. We saw how to use the XRef and the container, and I hope to see you back on Max Cookie to check for new tutorial coming from cjcookie.com. Bye.